What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gaming, back at it as always with our lovely little 37th episode of our Quack experimental podcast. We got a lot to talk about this week, so we're just going to get straight on into it because we're starting off with some Sony news, and I don't even get this. I don't even understand it. I don't know why this is happening. But hey, it's Sony. Apparently they get a pass on their tons of bullshit ideas and bullshit fuckery that they put out there. Anyway, first up, they have announced a new little attachment for the DualShock 4. The DualShock 4 back button attachment is the full name for it. Now, this little attachment, it attaches to the back of the controller, obviously. It adds two programmable buttons. Okay, I kind of get that. But it also adds an OLED screen on the back of the controller. Why the fuck is there an OLED screen on the back of the controller that you can't see? Well, probably the same fucking reason why there's, a light bar on the back of the controller that you can't see. Duh, good Sony idea. We different. Fucking idiots. But anyway, this plugs into the 3.5mm jack port on the bottom, as well as the extension port on the bottom of the DualShock 4. It has a headset pass-through for the 3.5mm jack, so you can obviously use your headsets or your voice chat or whatever it is on there, even though the PSN voice quality codec is worse than the 360. Yes, you heard that right, not the Xbox One, but it's worse than the 360. But anyway, what you can do is you can reprogram the two buttons on the back of this to be any of the main 16 buttons on the controller, so you can quickly duplicate whatever it is. So I don't know, whatever game you're playing, you can quickly map it to whatever you use for reload, whatever you use for open or action or something else, something to those effect anyway. So it's done quickly anyway. But this whole attachment and all, there's a couple of ideas out there. One is, what's the idea and what's the purpose of this? Are they trying to bring out an attachment that's going to bring the PS4 controller up to the level of the PS5 controller? Is the PS5 controller going to have an OLED screen on the back of it as well for some reason? And two additional reprogrammable buttons, or just something else in general? It could be different, but what this screams to me the most is that Sony desperately want to have an elite controller, just like Microsoft do, or a pro controller, as the Sony marketing goes. But after the officially licensed outsourced pro controllers that Sony licensed out to, I believe it was 2, maybe if not even 3 different companies, but they all suck balls and they all fail and flop miserably. So it's understandable Sony want to get up there, because when you look at the Xbox One Elite controller, you can put the paddles on the back, you've got 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and you can reprogram them to whatever you want, and you can just do, well, what this does, just only better and more logically and sensibly. So again, this just screams Sony playing catch up and copying other people's ideas. We all remember the PlayStation Move, not even the PlayStation Move, but I suppose you could go with the Move. We all remember the PS Move, as well as what was the other one? The motion controls in the 6-axis originally on the PS3, where they just blatantly copied Nintendo after Nintendo showed off the Wii, and now they're just copying this. But it really just goes to show that the Xbox One Elite controller for the current generation of consoles is the gold standard of controller. It's fantastic. The DualShock 4 was already a piece of shit anyway. The original OG Xbox One controller, it wasn't great. I know they did revise it eventually, and it did get a lot better. But the Elite controller, or at least the Elite Gen 1 that I have, I can't talk about the Gen 2, I don't have it. But the Gen 1 controllers, I've got 2 of them. I have one for my Xbox, one for my PC. And they're just fantastic. They're easily some of the best controllers I've ever used in my life. They feel great. They work great. The customizability on them is just fantastic. And most importantly, at least anyway, the D-pad on this is brilliant. At least as long as you're not using the crappy dish-based one. But anyway, this shitty little stupid attachment is coming out on the 23rd of January 2020 for $30 in North America. It has a release date in the EU of the 14th of February, but there's no price on it just yet. Maybe it gets canned, and maybe that's why there's no price on it. But hell, all those Sony ponies that absolutely love this, the idiot fanboys, it's not like they have anyone to spend Valentine's Day with, so I know they'll be plugging this shit in the back door of their DualShock 4. But moving along, I want to flex my influence, my rock hard, throbbing influence that I just exude from every orifice and every pore of my body and my freshly shaved head. But of course, Sega, Microsoft, whoever it is that are in charge of all of this, clearly they bend to my will after what they saw me talk about last week, or was it the week before? But anyway, the funny enough thing is Phantasy Star Online 2, a day or two, literally a day or two after I mentioned it in the previous whatever episode it was, Microsoft clearly heard me and are quaking in their green little shitty boots. They opened sign-ups for a closed beta test of Phantasy Star Online 2, literally a day or two after I talked about it previously. Now, this all takes place through the Xbox Insider program, so yes, even though the game is going to be multi-platform, it is currently only being signed up and tested on the Xbox One. Now, you can sign up for it on Windows 10 or Xbox One using the Windows Insider or Xbox Insider program, but the beta test is only exclusively, for the moment at least, Xbox One. Why did I say that really weird? I don't know. Anyway, there's no dates for it just yet, but it's currently only planned for the US. They didn't even say North America, so Canada, you're probably out of luck. But it seems to just be for the US. Now, I wonder if an EU test will come soon. Lord knows I'm going to jump in on that if there's definitely a test on there. And better not have a damn Xbox Gold requirement. Phantasy Star Online didn't have one. No, wait. Phantasy Star Universe didn't have one for Xbox 360. So we better not get one of these for Xbox One. Although, then again, I mean, I'll be playing it on PC anyway, so we don't pay for servers. Get out of here. This is a free-to-play game. I can play Gears of War 4, Gears of War 5, Halo the Master Chief Collection, among other Microsoft online first-party games, and I don't pay for online. Get the fuck out of here. What am I, some sort of console pleb? Eat shit and die. Anyway, spring 2020 is the targeted release date for the full version of the game, the full Western release of the game of Phantasy Star Online 2. Hopefully, again, it's not just a Microsoft Xbox One exclusive, timed exclusive anyway, in the West, because Lord knows I want to be playing that bad boy on my PC. It's been existing in its Japanese form in PC for years at this point, so that is where it really, really needs to happen. But speaking of stuff like that, we have the Switch. More so, the Switch getting exposed again. That's right, this Switch has been exposed for multiple different things over the several years it's been out at this point for laughably bad things that have been industry standard for 20 years but missing from the Switch. But they're doing it again. The Switch is being exposed for having less than basic functionality from 10, 15, arguably even 20 years from now. Anyone remember folders? 3DS had them, and that even the damn Wii U had folders. Imagine that. Imagine being overshadowed by the Wii U. But anyway, this time, it's being exposed by, wait for it, almost there, a cheaper little shitty indie game / indie developer. Untitled Goose Game. Now, I know many people are going to be unhappy about that because, well, Untitled Goose Game is apparently everyone's indie darling for 2019, but it just came to PS4. That's right, you're hearing this correctly about how the little indie game on a different platform exposed the Switch. But it just came to PS4, and they are giving away to celebrate a free dynamic theme on the PS4. And the Nintendrones, as they always usually do, because they don't have any type of basic features, functionality, or modern games, are QQing all up over the place. And all up in its shit, and all up in its grill. Because among all the other basic features and basic functionality that the Switch is missing, and believe me, 3 years after launch, there are a lot of it. An absolute lot of it. It still doesn't have proper themes, along with folders, messaging, proper friend systems, etc., etc. But, like I said, the big one for this, and I swear to God, if any of you say, oh, Q, it has themes, it just has the black and basic white. Yeah, because it's a basic bitch console. I'm not even asking for super, super crazy dynamic themes like maybe the PS4 has or something like that. It doesn't even have background wallpaper themes. Maybe ones that change the icons or whatever. That might even be a bit too much to ask for the Nintendo bitch. But Untitled Goose Game, you've just completely destroyed the Switch. Honk. But back to some real retro goodness just for the moment. And no, we're not still talking about the Nintendo Switch, even though pretty much all its games do look like retro games from the 90s, because, well, they just look that damn poor and run that damn poor. But no, we're talking Blade Runner PC. Now, I've mentioned this multiple different times in the past. And of course, yes, we all know the retro PC point-and-click adventure game set in the same world and has the same principles, the same almost characters or style or whatever as the film, the original film, at least Blade Runner. We don't talk about that alleged remake, or no, the alleged sequel. We don't talk about that one anyway. But yeah, I've talked about this a few times, and clearly this is another set of company, or another company and or set of companies that are quaking in my boots when I extend my will and slap people across the face with it. Because I've always wanted this to be one of those games. You might remember I talked about the whole GOG community submission request system and all. And I always wanted this to be one of the big games that was arguably forgotten. And that GOG could finally save, rescue, bring back, whatever it is. And you might remember a little while back, a group of modders or programmers or whatever they're called, named ScumVM, made it properly compatible with modern Windows, Microsoft operating systems. And that was great. The ability to finally play it properly without any issue on modern PCs was fantastic. Obviously, you did need your original discs or your original ISOs or something to that effect. But basically, you needed the original copy of the game, and you could play it using that. Hell, you could even restore the cut content from before the game actually launched, which was still included on the disc. Now, I got my wish thanks to several of the above, basically ScumVM and GOG. Yes, that's right. GOG have worked with ScumVM after their announcement that they finally got it up and running and working and whatnot. And they have also made a deal with Alcom Interactive, who owns the rights, the digital distribution rights and the IP and all for digitally distributing this game. So now, Blade Runner PC from the 90s, the game has basically been saved and is available digitally for the first time ever through the GOG Retro program. I highly recommend this game. It's probably on sale right now because, well, all the stores are having their sale. Naturally, Steam goes big, goes hard, and everyone just tries to copy it, emulate it, and play catch up and whatnot. But I highly recommend this. If you like old school games, like the old school point and click games like Broken Sword, like Monkey Island, stuff like that, I highly recommend Blade Runner on PC. I have no need to buy this. I still have my physical copy anyway, and I can rock the ScumVM virtual machine or whatever they want to call it. But I highly recommend this game. It's fantastic. It's great to see it rescued by GOG and whoever it is. Even if I don't have a GOG account, and I probably never have one, but it's good to see that they're doing this. Maybe if they get No One Lives Forever up and running on there, maybe if they manage to rescue No One Lives Forever 1 and 2, get 1 up and running perfectly fine, get 2 working without the need to gimp it down to 30 FPS to get by certain parts. Woo lad, I may just make a GOG account for that. Throw in Black and White 1 and 2. Well, I can't really remember 2, but throw in Black and White 1 while we're at it as well. And that might be a guaranteed sale. That might be a guaranteed account creation, GOG. But speaking of old companies, old licenses, dormant IPs, whatever it is, Capcom, of all things, has registered a few new trademarks. I shouldn't even call them a few new trademarks, because, well, it's a few old trademarks, if you will. Now, they're not the only ones to do this. There are a couple of other companies doing the same thing recently, but let's look at it a little bit more in detail at the moment anyway. So Capcom have registered Dino Crisis as a trademark, Power Stone, and Darkstalkers for trademarks. Now, of course, like I said, they're not the only company to do this. Square Enix have also registered Nier as another trademark and all as well. And let's break it down and talk a little bit about them anyway. So, what could this potentially mean? So let's look at Capcom's ones first. Dino Crisis. Now, this could be maybe a new Dino Crisis entry. It could be a remake a la, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 style. Because if you ask me, when I tried to go play it, I think it was last year again, Dino Crisis aged horribly. You probably haven't played it in years, and you probably just remember it as Resident Evil with dinosaurs. No, no, no. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I used to love Dino Crisis, but it just aged really, really badly. Now, there's not too much I can say about Darkstalkers. It's a fighting game. It's not my type of game, but I'm sure all types of crazy weebs out there and fanboys and fan artists and whatnot will go crazy for Morgan. Or is it Morgana? I think it's Morgan. But there's probably a couple of others in there. I think Felicia is in there as well. I think she's a Darkstalkers character. But it could be a new entry, it could be just doing whatever it is, but we'll talk about that now in a minute. When it comes to Power Stone, that's a very interesting one because we've only had 2 Power Stone games. They were on the Dreamcast. They're fantastic games, but many people consider them superior to Smash Brothers, funnily enough. And I'd probably be inclined to agree, although I would be saying that with rose-tinted glasses. Wait a minute, these aren't rose-tinted. But you know what I mean anyway, because I just haven't played them since the Dreamcast, whereas Smash is just kind of the same boring thing released once every generation. Now, back to whatever else we have here. Square Enix and their Nier trademark. Now, this is probably just a remaster of that shitty 7th generation game that everyone hated, that was panned everywhere and all, but now everyone can pretend to love it and pretend it's the best shit ever, it's the deepest shit ever, when everyone actually hated it and it was completely panned. But now it's cool, because of Nier Automata. But yeah, people are sheep like that. Now, the Capcom trademarks, I will say this. The Capcom trademarks, and when they've last had games and the years and whatnot too, they're so old that it could actually be just them re-registering this to keep them. Because you have to re-register a new trademark and a new IP, or a new trademark and a new copyright and whatnot on IPs and series and whatnot every so often. Sometimes I think it's 10 years, sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more, depends on what it is. And when you look at the last entry in these games and the last entry in these series, it could maybe be around that time. So it could possibly be nothing, and it could possibly just be them keeping their IPs so that they don't lose them. But, of course, more importantly, Capcom, you fucks, where's my damn new Breath of Fire game? Give me a new proper quality Breath of Fire game. Give me it on PS5, Xbox, PC, of course, because naturally, it's next gen. It will have next gen visuals, next gen gameplay, next gen mechanics, next gen everything. So, of course, it won't be on the Switch. And speaking of modern quality and modern sensibilities and remasters and games and whatnot, we have the Master Chief Collection. That's right, Halo, the Master Chief Collection. Of course, we all know Halo Reach is out. It's great. It's still getting improved too. It's a damn good PC version of the game. And of course, it's not finished and it's only going to get better. But more importantly, the Halo Master Chief Collection is not just Halo Reach. No, there are multiple games in there too. We have Halo Reach, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo 3 ODST. So that's 6 main entries in that thing. Not going to include the difference with regular Halo 2 Online and Halo 2 Anniversary Online and Forge and Theater and whatnot. No. But more importantly, we have updates on the following games. I say the following games, but everything else basically. Everything to follow Reach. Now, we have some good stuff when it comes to Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary on PC for the Master Chief Collection. We have an ETA on the beta test flights for that game, which thankfully are, if all goes to plan and all, in January. So we have potential beta tests in January, hopefully to release shortly after. Depends on how they go, what needs to be fixed, yada yada yada, how far off they are from the finished product and whatnot, or release date. And there it is too. Now they've also said that they're going to, in the meantime, while they're doing all that, they have extra teams doing different stuff, and they're going to be working in the meantime on a couple of little additional updates and whatnot for existing stuff, like regional server selection, crossplay between Xbox One and PC, Steam account linking. They've got the, variable frame rate improvements idle system improvements, customization improvements, in-game FPS cap and adjustments. That makes a little bit more sense because currently the game runs at standard 60 FPS. You can unlock it to run at whatever it wants, but anything above 60 FPS is currently experimental. So naturally they're going to improve it and adjust it, probably put in a 120, 144 cap option as well, because they'll be able to design it to work with those frame rates. Anyway, there are also going to be better ways to report players, and they're going to be bringing PC features to consoles as long as they can run them, like additional, say, the FOV sliders and whatnot too. Now, Halo 2 is slightly behind, and they stressed slightly, only slightly, behind Halo Combat Evolved in where it is and the work that needs to be done on it. So, hopefully at least anyway, after Combat Evolved Anniversary comes out, we won't be waiting a massive amount of time for Halo 2 Anniversary to come out. Now, Halo 3, Forge, Theater and whatnot are also in there as well. They have said that ODST and Halo 4 are further off, but they will hopefully be released also in 2020, which is a kind of a far cry and a little bit of a shame from their original quote. You might remember earlier in 2019 when the Master Chief Collection was finally announced for PC that they said they wanted to have the entire collection and everything out in 2019. And here we are, we get the first game, Halo Reach, at the start of December of 2019. Now, you may take that as complaining and me belly aching and whatnot too. And sure, while I would love to play the game sooner and whatnot too, I do realize that the longer they take, the better it becomes, and the better it is at release, the better it is at launch, and then of course they can improve it and whatnot too. It's a double-edged sword. It's a mixed bag, if you will, 7 out of 10. But I just want to play it. I just want to play it. That's all I can say. Anyway, I can't wait. Naturally, I've already bought the entire Halo Master Chief Collection on Steam, and I've played a damn good amount of Reach. And once Halo Combat Evolved comes out, that's going to be something special. It's my favorite. It's my favorite Halo game. I was going to say it's my favorite Combat Evolved game. It's my favorite Halo game. I absolutely love it. It gave birth to the Flood, one of the 2 best video game villains I consider of all time. Next one is probably up there with T-103 from Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's just going to be something special. It's just going to be something absolutely special. And I can't fucking wait for it. But you know what I can wait for? More microtransactions, because yes, we are here talking about microtransactions. Thankfully, we're not talking about them in relation to Halo the Master Chief Collection on PC, but we are talking about microtransactions and what I call microtransactions creep. You might remember that term from your own, whatever it is you're familiar with. If you play MMOs or something like that, you might know it as power creep, spectacle creep, performance creep, whatever it is. There's so many different ones, but microtransaction creep is one of these. Now, I've always said that they will always try to inch it forward more and more and more with what companies will try to get away and charge you with for. Luckily, thankfully at least anyway, this has backfired in several cases, and companies have had to take a couple of steps back and from pushing it forward. Looking at Star Wars Battlefield 2 is a perfect example of this. But the company in question has removed basic functionality that was previously standard, previously given for over 20 years, and it was given as free. Why? Because it was a core base gameplay. I wouldn't even call it mechanic. It was just built into the game naturally. But this kind of thing companies have started removing basic functionality. Now, of course, this isn't the Nintendo Switch that never had basic functionality to remove from it, but no. This one is very, very fucking egregious. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. They really jumped the shark in this one. What account is it being I guess it's not really a futuristic one with exosuits and whatnot, so I guess they can't jump a shark with a freaking laser beam on its head. But anyway, Modern Warfare has removed the kill death leaderboards from the gameplay. Now, you might remember that as pretty much every, I won't even call it first-person shooter, but pretty much every competitive game you play at the moment for years and years and years at this point, all the way since the 90s. Of course, now that other companies see that Activision can get away with it, they'll probably start doing it themselves. So let's see how far this lasts and how long this lasts before all the other companies do it. But yes, they have removed the kill death leaderboard. I know, very, very strange. But you can still see your in-game death counter. But in order to do this, in order to see how many deaths you have, instead of pressing back on a controller, instead of pressing tab on a keyboard, or whatever it is, or just seeing it naturally when you die while you're waiting to respawn, now you have to acquire something in Call of Duty that is called a death counter watch. Now, this death counter watch is only available as part of a $20 DLC bundle. To the best of my ability that I've seen anywhere else and that I've read anywhere else and looked into it myself, is that this cannot be earned and just unlocked in-game, naturally. You have to buy a $20 DLC bundle in order to get the item, to be able to see your death counts. I know. You might as well just call me Larry Zabisco, because I fucking told you so, and of course, I'm always right at this point. We all know that. But the more and more people pay for this shit, and shit like this in other games, stuff that is basic functionality that is removed and they start to charge you for down the line or in the next game or whatever, the more and more you do this, the more and more you support this, the more and more you send them the message that this is okay and it's worth your time and money, the more and more that they will try to cut, try to change, try to charge, try to remove everything that was probably already free and part of the base game that should have been in it. Fucking whack division. But let's move on for a second and take a look at something, a game, a company, whatever you want to call it, a publisher, that's not a piece of shit. No, because it's actually fantastic. It's one of the best games I played in 2018. It was actually probably the second best game in 2018 that I played. Dragon Quest XI. Now, Dragon Quest XI, we all know, is made by Square Enix. They've published a little bit of an announcement about this. Square Enix have said that Dragon Quest XI has shipped. I stress shipped, but I'm sure the sales and actually sold through number is very, very close to it. 5.5 million units. Now, this makes it the best-selling Dragon Quest game ever made, or ever released. It combines the Steam sales, the PS4 sales, the Japanese 3DS sales, and the Switch sales, but it doesn't break them down into each division. Now, having said that, I'm guessing, based on everything we know, and everything we know worldwide, console shares, what people buy stuff on, I'm guessing PS4 is in first place, probably followed by the 3DS. That's my guess when it comes to sales breakdowns and all. Now, how do I feel about this? I feel this is fantastic. Dragon Quest XI absolutely deserves this kind of sales. In fact, when you look at it, Dragon Quest XI has sold more than Persona 5. Persona 5 being a considerably better game. But Dragon Quest XI is still a fantastic game. And it's a great JRPG that absolutely everyone should play. Now, of course, I will say pretty much everything about it is great in some ways. It's a great series in general, and it's great to see it finally move to what is basically the current gen, and not be hamstrung by being ported old games or released on dead consoles like the Wii U or the 3DS when it's gimped and hamstrung like, say, Monster Hunter was for so very, very long. But I'm glad that this is happening. I'm glad that it's succeeding. I'm glad it's successful, because it just means that going forward, when the next Dragon Quest game comes out, of course, it will come to these multiple platforms yet again. It will probably have a bigger budget. It will probably have, because they know they can get the sales back, the return back from it. They'll probably invest more into it, and hopefully it will turn out to be a bigger and better game in pretty much every way, and I can't wait for that. Granted, it's going to be a long way off, but all I can say until then is I am glad that I was one of those Steam sales. That's right, I bought the game before day one because I knew it was going to be great, like so many of the other Dragon Quest games are. So I'm very proud to be one of those Steam sales. And you know what? We may not have all that minor, tiny little extra content that Square Enix shoehorned in because no one would buy the late port on the inferior platform later down the line. But hey, at least I modded in my orchestral music day zero before it even got a chance to start. But speaking of Nintendo consoles, something came up to me. It occurred to me doing some of my musing and whatnots too. And you might remember, I don't know if I've mentioned this once or twice before, but a while back, I was on Game Buffet with Too Much Food, his show, his podcast, or whatever he wants to call it. or whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is. Now, we talked about many things, of course, naturally, as you do when discussing all this type of stuff. But the Switch and the thoughts on the Switch and all were fairly high profile, fairly. It turned out to be a large in-depth segment anyway, especially at the time because he was thinking of buying a Switch, or I don't know if the Switch Lite was announced at the time, but I know he was thinking about buying a Switch at some point. Now, at one point, we were talking about it and all that too, and I theorized that Nintendo no longer make traditional consoles because they don't know how anymore. Now, this prompted some discussion and whatnot too. We were going back and forth about Nintendo. He was saying that Nintendo do their best when they're making off the wall crazy ideas and gimmicks and whatnot. And I said, well, arguably in my opinion, that I believe that they no longer make successful traditional home consoles because they no longer know how. Now, I gave a couple of examples and all on this too, because when you look at it, they did try to do all of this kind of stuff every maybe second generation post Super Nintendo, but pretty much all their normal traditional consoles have flopped. I mean, let's look at it. The N64, basically, the N64 was a flop compared to the competition, and many of the critical, I won't even call it a critical acclaim, but critical just panning and lauding and stuff that was missing and whatnot, games and all too. Obviously they moved on to the GameCube after that, where they tried to normalize it a little bit, but they still flopped completely. I mean, they outsold the Dreamcast, sure, but they completely got dominated by the PS2, and then even Microsoft's first console, the Xbox One, the OG Xbox 180, their very first console and their very first dipping their toe into the foray of the console market, it completely destroyed Nintendo and outsold them. And then they went back to a gimmick with the Wii, and that did its thing. Then they went to a more traditional console with the Wii U, and it flopped drastically. Now they're back with a gimmick again, and it's doing pretty well to an extent. It's doing pretty well in sales, of course, now, but there's something important that I want to get to now in a minute. Just remember, going forward, that this is back to one of their gimmick consoles, which typically do really well. But let's just keep that on our mind for a second here, because, well, the Switch really highlights it yet again, because, and not so much the Switch, well, I should say the Switch highlights it again, but more spectacularly and more specifically, the Switch games really reinforce and highlight the way I believe this. Because when you look at all the high-profile, top-selling games and whatnot on the Switch, the big AAA ones, the ones that sell the console, the ones that blow up the top 10 charts consistently years and months and months and months and whatnot after launch, these are all traditional, normal-style games that aren't anything different or innovative, thanks to the gimmicks of the Switch. These are all things that could be done better, accomplished better, and not gimmicked and hamstrung by terrible hardware designs, terrible designs in general, because of the Switch's gimmick. These could all be done better in every way on a normal, traditional console. Think about that. Think about all the games. You don't have games like 1-2 Switch, Nintendo Labo, Ring Fit. They ain't shit when you think about it. No, you have all these games. Let's look at some of the Switch's biggest games. And one of them is a remaster, but it sells exceptionally well, so I'm going to include it as well. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Let's try that one again in case the YouTube auto-captioning system kind of fucked me over on that one like it usually does. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Take that, YouTube auto-captioning. But anyway, obviously, that's not an exclusive game because it is out on the Wii U as well, originally designed and developed as a Wii U game. Technically, I suppose the Switch version will be a port. But anyway, that you see my point. We have Super Mario Odyssey. Fantastic game, of course. But again, nothing that couldn't be done on a proper traditional console. We've already covered Zelda, Smash. Enough said. Party game can be played on pretty much anything. Hell, the fucking 3DS had a Smash game. I didn't realize it was the same one as the Wii U, but you see my point. And, of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a game that was already on the Wii U. Standard game, standard style game, and just in Mario Kart in general, when you look at everything it's on, there's nothing special that it couldn't be done on any normal console. Hell, almost every Mario Kart game was on a normal, traditional style console, and that they usually did exceptionally well. But when you think about it, Oh, Pokemon as well, actually. How did I even forget about that? But all of these things, these are the gimmick games, like 1-2 Switch and whatnot too. They fail and flop miserably. It's the core, normal style games that really shine. And these are nothing unique in sense that they're nothing unique that couldn't be done elsewhere. That couldn't be done. There's nothing specific about the Switch, its mechanics and all as well, that it couldn't be done better on a normal console or elsewhere. But no, all of these games have to get gimmicked and hamstrung and held back, all because of the Switch's gimmick console and gimmick mechanics. But anyway, we've come to the end of it and we can wrap it up nice and quick this week, despite us having a lot of different things to talk about. Because yes, we can move on to everyone's favorite segment, the reason why everyone is here. Q, what is up? What's the deal? What's going down? What are you doing? What are you playing? And I can answer that with one simple word. Grandia. That's right. We all know that moving into 2020, we have a little bit of a dry period between December of 2019, January of 2020, February of 2020, and then of course there's the huge deluge of games in March, April, and I won't even say May. There's only really one big game out in May, but there's a huge deluge of games, maybe about probably 8 to 10 games that I want to play within those 2 months. Now of course 1 or 2 of them will be pushed back to probably the start of May, maybe a little bit to summer, because when you think about it, some of the games I want that are coming out then are big RPGs, big JRPGs and whatnot. They're going to require a fairly significant time investment. So what I'm doing, what I've talked about already, is that in the run-up to all of that, December, January, February, I'm going to start banging out and knocking out a couple of old retro games, and I've already started on that. Grandia is my one main focus at the moment. That's basically all I'm doing and all I'm playing. I may throw in a little, one horde game of Gears every few nights or something just to change it up a little bit. But Grandia is my jam. I've started it so many different times. I've played through it so many different times. I've never finished it, but I've always got fairly far. I always got to at least disc 2. Hell, I've even got hours and hours into disc 2, but for some reason that I was stopped, something different would come up or whatever it is. But not this time. Not this time. I'm going to finish it. Eventually I'm going to move on to Grandia 2, hopefully within the next 3 months, and finish that one. And, well, we'll get a couple of other RPGs, a couple of other old school games of whatever it is. And of course, between all the deluge of games starting in March of 2020, well, that's also my return to retro collecting in around I think it's maybe 13th, 14th or 15th of March. That's when retro gaming, retro buying, retro collecting, that's when that bad boy is back. But anyway, until then, until next week or whatever video we have, we are done here on our lovely little 37th episode of our Quack Experimental Podcast. As always, I want to thank everyone for suffering through this whole spiel that I do every week, and naturally, I appreciate anything you guys leave in the comment section below. Any thoughts, opinions on any of this, any of these topics that we encountered here today, because, well, some of it is just woo lad. Anyway, as always, I want to let everyone know, why not head on over, hit the little subscribe button, maybe hit the appropriate button to let me know I did on the video, and while you're at it, why not hit the little notification bell to see if you can be one of those few people that is lucky if YouTube decides to ever give you one of those little notifications when I do put one of these beautiful, glorious, high production value, high quality episodes of correct, right opinions and right think every week. Anyway, until then, I want to thank everyone for watching, and remember that winners don't play switch ports.